Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. This week I'm discussing something that should worry all of us if we are investors and traders in the capital market. It all started a couple of weeks ago when Zee Business aired a program called Demat DACA. What is DACA? As all of you know, it is exploitation or dacoity in your Demat account. Actually, what they meant was your trading account. And what Zee Business was discussing was a scam of sorts where a bunch of investors, actually only 20 at the maximum, had got their accounts hacked and lost money. Now, this has not been known to happen in the capital market. So it sent a chill down the spines of people when they looked at it. Zee Business's managing editor Anil Singhvi, in fact, played it out over several episodes, and he aired conversations and recordings to show how trading accounts had been hacked and what these investors faced. There is good news and there is bad news. Now, the good news is that this is not a major hacking problem. It was very small. In fact, seems to be restricted to a maximum of 20. In fact, we know of 7 specific cases, and for this video blog, I'm actually going to talk about only 2. Now, all these accounts were with Zerodha, which is India's largest stockbroker. It is also known for the disruption that it caused in the stockbroking business, and it is highly tech savvy. That's why it was a bigger surprise. The amount of money lost was also not big, ran into a few lakh rupees. All this happened between 7th April and 1st July, and Zee Business aired it around 20th to 22nd over several episodes. When this happened, Nitin Kamath, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Zerodha, actually issued a series of tweets to talk about what Demat DACA had said. So he said the hackers had probably exploited a vulnerability in just specific accounts which were with Rediffmail. So this means that if you have logged into the market or opened a broking account with Gmail or Yahoo or anything else, it possibly did not affect you. As it happened, all these 20 happened to have Rediffmail accounts and Zerodha accounts. Now, he says that Zerodha has repeatedly notified clients, which they told us as well, to say, please move out of Rediffmail accounts. He also says in tweets that we blocked Rediff IDs on trading accounts a while ago. We also don't send password resets to Rediff email IDs. That's good, no doubt about it. So what are we discussing? First, let's discuss the fraud itself. Like I said, it's minuscule, and to put it in even bigger perspective, like I said, Zerodha is a top firm, has become the biggest because it has great systems. So it has 65 lakh investors, of which in the whole of last year, Nitin Kamath says only 100 complaints of fraud. And in most cases, it is investors who are at fault, who had passed on credentials, passwords to people. Only 20 were affected Rediff accounts, of which, like I said, we really have details only about 7. Now, I personally have an account with Zerodha, and we recognize that it's been an amazing disruptor in the broking space. It has grown entirely based on its tech prowess and in the service that it offers customers. It's able to anticipate their needs and help them to not only trade seamlessly, but also file their taxes very seamlessly, calculate long and short-term capital gains, and a lot of wonderful things. It also is among the only brokers that actually nudges you to not overtrade. So what happened with it this time? Even here, apart from the initial mishandling, and yes, I will call it mishandling, it has quickly got around to realizing there's an issue and helping the investors. Now, why am I discussing this in a video blog? Because to my mind, it is a wake-up call, not just for investors, but actually for the capital market. These 7 investors went through such a harrowing time even to prove that there was a fraud, and we discovered that the entire capital market is completely unprepared for such a thing happening. This can't go on. This time it was small, it was contained, it was handled well, and luckily just about 7 to 20 people. Now, if it were bigger, you can imagine what is going to happen. So let's start with what has to be done. The default attitude of everybody, starting with the Securities and Exchange Board of India, is that the investor is always wrong. So two of the investors complained to SEBI's online complaint system, which is called Scores, and discovered that it doesn't work. SEBI acted like a post office. It has no standard operating procedures for any market intermediary, because remember, there is SEBI at the top as a regulator, then there is the exchange, then there is the Exchanges Clearing Corporation, the depository. None of them are prepared for a scam of this kind or a hacking job, and they don't know what to do because, like I said, they always said the investor is wrong. Now, what happened in this particular hack? So let me talk about these two examples. Ranjit D'Souza discovered a problem when he was trying to log in on 13th May. His first reaction was to change his password using the forgot password option, used a one-time OTP, but he was logged out as soon as the market opened. He also saw that a fraudster was using his account, getting rid of his positions, and when money was short, even selling his long-term holdings to pay for it. It's all happening before his eyes. He starts calling the call center of Zerodha. He's repeatedly trying to change his password to prevent it. Why is he calling the call center? What you do with a credit card, your first instinct is block it so that you preserve your shares and your money. But he says it took him a long time even to connect. Now, every time he changed his password, the fraudster was able to override and connect, go back, log him out, and go back to conducting fraudulent transactions in his account. Finally, when he got the Zerodha official on the line, this official was convinced that something like this can never happen, because like I said, it hasn't happened. And he kept saying 99.9% of the times, change the password and it works. And this man is saying, I have, it is not working. Then he told him download a double authenticator app with a dynamic PIN. He did that as well. He demanded to speak to a supervisor. Even while he's speaking to the supervisor, he gets logged out and the fraudster has control of the account. So the supervisor now has no option but to believe him. That's when his account finally gets blocked. Luckily, in this case, the amount of losses, 1 lakh versus overnight positions, his total loss including mark to market may not have been over 2.5 lakh rupees. Okay. Now what happens is that Zerodha also finds that the money was going to 2 other Zerodha accounts. So it quickly decides that it's going to block those, because now it's convinced that this man's account has been hacked, and there is a process. I'll come to that afterwards. The second investor, his name is Rajesh Talekar. He lost 14 lakh. Absolutely something similar has happened. I'm not going to go into details because we are now convinced it's happened. What Ranjit D'Souza went through, it was similar. Now, in these two cases, like I said, in some counterparties, Zerodha was able to figure out where the money is gone. They're able to freeze it. They had to write to the clearing corporation to say, okay, don't allow this money to go out, freeze it. The clearing corporation says, sorry, we don't listen to you. The investor has to go and file a complaint with the cybercrime cell of the Mumbai police, and only when the police write to us and say, yes, there is reasonable doubt to suspect that there is suspicious trading activity here, we are not going to do anything. Zerodha tells me on asking that we did handhold these two investors, we helped them, we gave them the email ID of the cybercrime police, we told them how you should file a complaint, what you should do, but the whole process, even starting from convincing them that the account was hacked and they did not share their password, it's extremely harrowing. In fact, Mr. Talekar tells me that he spent hours and hours with the cybercrime police over several days, even explaining terms, options and trading terms, what happens, when does the money go, what is overnight positions. Naturally, the cybercrime police is not supposed to know how options and trading works, right? But who does the job? It is left to the victim, and for him, it means taking leave from work. Now, everywhere, even when they're talking to the NSE, there's not much help, because they say even if it's blocked, NSE talks about processes, which obviously they're making up as they go along, because SEBI has no standard operating procedures. Now, remember, the interesting part is the starting point was both these investors naively thought, let us go to the regulator and file a complaint. So they filed a complaint on scores. What did SEBI do? Acted like a post office, sent it to the NSE. What did NSE do? Sent it to its grievance redress committee. Now, this grievance redress committee hadn't come across anything like this. So what was its reaction? Saying, okay, all right, you've been cheated, but we can't do anything. The exchange can't do anything. The broker is not at fault. So go and file a complaint with the cybercrime police. Let them investigate and let them come back. Think about it, you have a system where you are assured that there are a million checks and balances, but when you become the victim, doesn't matter that you are one in a million victims, you're on your own because the system first does not even believe you, and then it is not geared to handle this. Everybody is learning. Now, in an environment where millions of trades running into crores of rupees can happen in a microsecond. Remember, we're not talking nanoseconds. Micro and milliseconds are like 1 out of 10,000ths of a second. If this is the system and it's geared for this, imagine if this hack was not in a small investor's account, but somewhere in a bigger account. Can it not happen? Who knows? This has happened for the first time. So a bigger hacking could actually throw the entire system out of gear, because you cannot, when it's a few lakh rupees and it's an individual investor, you can say, okay, wait for months. What would you do if it was a large institutional broker? If the amount ran into crores or hundreds of crores, would you also tell them as a regulator that bad luck? Just go file with the cybercrime police, and when they investigate and tell us what to do, we will decide whether to believe you or not, or give you your money back. I mean, 14 lakhs is a lot of money for an individual. So Zee Business, like I said, was following it up. In fact, one investor on the program said that his account was not blocked for 1.5 hours. Can you think of how many trades would have gone through in that 1.5 hours? Because he was not believed. Another said that 5 times he changed his password, and all 5 times the fraudster was able to change it back and continue to hack his account. Now, unlike credit card companies, which are geared for this, the minute you call a certain line, they check your identity and your credit card is blocked. We do not have these systems in the capital market. So victims of fraud are asked to send an email through their registered ID, because they're not even believed until then. All that takes time. 1.5 hours could wipe out your savings, including your long-term savings. It could have happened. So like I said, it's very, very fortunate that this time it was all contained. And these two investors, Ranjit and Rajesh, reached out to Moneylife on 4th August. We wrote to Zerodha, and after that, Zerodha, in a very positive gesture, offered to refund the losses of these brokers. They said, we will give you the money back, and as a gesture of goodwill, and let us wait for the process. Let's see what the investigation says, and if the money is recovered, obviously that will go back from the blocked accounts eventually to Zerodha. Now, what is the way forward? Nitin Kamath has tweeted that his firm has introduced what they call a kill switch, which is that one button where you can press and block certain segments. You can block your derivatives trades, you can protect your long-term holdings, you can possibly do something. In fact, this kill switch was devised actually to stop compulsive traders from overtrading. Like I said, Zerodha does think in advance about what traders should do and tries to protect people from their own follies. So luckily, it seems to have been there. Can a fraudster override it? We don't know, because this fraud is contained. We will know the next time around, if there is a hacking, whether just a kill switch would work. And having stopped something, you will use a kill switch only after you've been a victim of fraud. So other processes, which is clearinghouse, the exchange, the regulator, the complaint to cybercrime, will that move smoothly? We don't know, because Zerodha can do nothing about it. The regulator has to step up, regulator has to take charge and put in place standard operating procedures in a way that doesn't harass an individual investor. SEBI's job, primary job in its preamble, is to protect investors. So it has to ensure that it doesn't burden them, but it makes it easy. Now, Zerodha also has said, obviously a broker is thinking about ways to avoid this. So it says investors should use a time-based one-time password. It's called a TOTP, which Zerodha thinks is infallible, but according to one of the investors, that did not work this time. So again, all this needs to be verified independently. There has to be a root cause analysis. So again, we have Nitin Kamath saying these are all Rediffmail IDs, just 20 of them, and there is obviously a vulnerability there. Someone has to check, because Rediff has told an investor it's not their fault. So let's not get into trading charges. Regulator has to step in, evolve a process, decide which case of hacking is really hacking and fraud, or which is negligence, and ensure that the systems are not onerous. Finally, the hacking episode, however small, shows that the best of systems are vulnerable, and when investors are the victims, they have a right to protection. Rajesh's experience with the NSE, like I said, was they are not clear what will happen even after the how the block transactions would be settled, even after the cybercrime police submits its report. SEBI has to give those instructions. Let's not have trial and error. Now, the fact that it happens in Zerodha, like I say, is surprising, and it's good, because Zerodha is going to work overtime, I'm quite confident, to prevent this happening. It does have robust systems. It's constantly working on improvements, and unlike other brokers, it does not hard sell its wealth management and advisory services. It does not call investors and say buy this or sell that or subscribe to our services or get leverage, which means the chances of the investor being fooled by calls that come from relationship managers or brokerage firms also is not there. So look at the temerity of the hackers to use this particular firm to try their little stunt. Was this stunt an experiment? Was this a trial balloon to something bigger? And personally, I think it would be so much more chaotic if it happened in an old style brokerage firm which does not have the knowledge and systems that maybe a Zerodha would have. If it can happen in Zerodha, I also feel this may not be the first incident of such hacking. Maybe there have been others, maybe there have been individual victims, and it's all buried under the carpet, or it's been pushed to the cybercrime police, and these people are too small to fight. Take it to a large media channel like Zee Business. Remember, even after Zee Business has done this whole DMAT DACA thing, hardly any mainstream media or people who write on investments have taken it up. One of the reasons is, of course, that Zerodha is one of the best brokerage firms. But my point is, it's not about the brokerage. It is not about their systems. It is about the entire capital market, the regulator and the exchanges being unprepared for this kind of hacking and having absolutely no SOPs in place for what to do. If you agree with what I'm saying, it is a wake-up call for you, especially if you're an investor. Make sure that you make your voice heard. Don't bury this under the carpet. Let's aim at SEBI and let's demand that SEBI puts in place these rules really quick. If you like what I say, share this with people and please subscribe to Moneylife. Thank you.